Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has a meltdown as she opposes protecting women's sports. Pam Bondi faces the Senate as Pete Hegseth shines. Plus, RFK Jr. receives a glowing endorsement. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
God bless the United States of America.
Good evening, friends, and welcome to the 13-minute news hour. We're going to start with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her bizarre rant during this week's vote on a bill that would ban males from competing in girls' and women's sports. A similar bill was passed last year, but it went nowhere in the Democrat-controlled Senate. But this is a new year with a new president and a new national mandate. When time had expired and the votes were tallied, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act passed 218 to 206, with only 2 Democrats voting for the bill. 206 Democrats voted no. Here's AOC on the floor of the House speaking out against the bill.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, Madam Ranking Member. Here we are today, Republicans who have voted consistently against the Violence Against Women Act, who have taken away the right of all women to choose and have control over their own body, who, as women are bleeding out in parking lots across the country, standing there, allowing us to die, now want to pretend today that they care about women.
AOC is simply wrong that rights of all women have been taken away, obviously referring to abortion, which is a state issue. States decide. Here's more.
And why? To open up gender and, yes, genital examinations into little girls in this country in the so-called name of attacking trans girls. And to that, today, what we have to say are 2 words: not today.
What? Not only do the Democrats push perversions like wanting men to be in girls' locker rooms and showers, but AOC says protecting girls will actually lead to other perversions. Nowhere has anyone said that little girls would be examined. That's coming straight from the twisted mind of AOC, apparently. But she keeps going.
Trans girls are girls. And for all the folks that are so concerned, thank you for your concern about women for the first time that I've seen. I don't know about y'all. I don't know who's been to gym class lately, but girls, even if you only believe in 2 genders, I've played co-ed sports all the time. But what this also opens the door for is for women to try to perform a very specific kind of femininity for the very kind of men who are drafting this bill, and to open up questioning of who is a woman because of how we look, how we present ourselves, and yes, what we choose to do with our bodies.
What I find classic about AOC's nonsense at the end of her statement is that the people who most try to fit into this female stereotype that the left loves to rail against are the men who are pretending to be women. They are the ones putting on the skirts and the makeup and the wigs. If none of that defines a woman, why do they do it? Riley Gaines was in D.C. to celebrate the passage of the bill, and she had some strong words for AOC and the other Democrats who consistently and emphatically vote against protecting women.
While I certainly believe people turned out to the polls to embrace Donald Trump, to embrace his cabinet picks, to embrace the America First agenda, more so, truthfully, I believe that people turned out to the polls on November 5th to reject absurdity. And that is entirely and thoroughly what the Democratic Party has become: absurd. Whether it's feeling like you have to refer to Latino individuals as Latinx, believing that men can become women, believing that men can breastfeed, believing that tampons belong in boys' bathrooms, entirely and thoroughly absurd.
That sums it all up right there. Americans have had enough, and they made their feelings known at the ballot box. AOC will continue to speak nonsense, and the more she does it, the more the Democrats will lose. All right, next let's talk about the Senate confirmation hearings. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. President-elect Trump's pick for Attorney General Pam Bondi testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and what we are seeing from the Democrats is simply pathetic. especially when you consider the questions and grandstanding that was on display yesterday when Pete Hegseth, Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense, gave his testimony. In the case of Bondi, Democrats brought up the 2020 election, January 6th prisoners, and whether she would target political opponents on behalf of Trump. Bondi testified that she would go after the bad people in the DOJ who do bad things.
Let me give you a really good example of a bad lawyer within the Justice Department, a guy named Klein Smith, who altered a FISA warrant, one of the most important things we can do in this country. So will everyone be held to an equal, fair system of justice if I am the next Attorney General? Absolutely. And no one is above the law.
Hegseth was grilled over and over again by Democrats who were focused on smearing a person rather than truly evaluating whether someone is qualified to do the job. Democrat Virginia Senator Tim Kaine had a laundry list of these "you would agree" hypotheticals, and Hegseth never took the bait. Kaine brought up drinking, sexual assault, cheating, basically any activity under the sun to smear Hegseth. Finally, Republican Senator Mullen had enough.
Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No, but it's for show.
When it was all said and done, after around 4 hours of questioning, Hegseth came away looking better than ever. He remained focused and he let the Democrats self-destruct. Here's CNN's Scott Jennings with his take.
I mean, it wasn't even close. They didn't lay a glove on Hegseth. No mistakes, calm, cool, collected. I mean, before the thing even started, you had this like Code Pink, protester freak show trying to disrupt the hearing. That's the Democratic base, by the way, which probably explains why the Democrats on the committee acted in such a bizarre and unprofessional way. I was appalled at some of the way these senators handled themselves and some of the lines of questioning. I mean, Tim Kaine sounded like a sex pervert in his questioning of Pete Hegseth.
Republican Senator Joni Ernst announced that she would now vote for Hegseth, and his confirmation seems assured. But there are many more fireworks to come. We still have hearings for Kash Patel, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and more. And the Democrats will use every opportunity to bring them down. Next, let's talk about RFK Jr. and the endorsement he received by Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong. Now, if you are not familiar with that name, this man is not only the owner of the Los Angeles Times, but he is a transplant surgeon, surgery professor, business owner, and entrepreneur. Following the 2024 elections, Dr. Soon-Shiong was one of the first, followed by Jeff Bezos and others, to say that the media need to change and that the LA Times would be focusing on more balanced coverage. This, of course, led to outrage from left-wing reporters. Dr. Soon-Shiong also came out in the past week lamenting that the newspaper endorsed Karen Bass for a Los Angeles mayor. Clearly, he is going to have a more hands-on approach with the LA Times. In a recent appearance on The Morning Meeting, he offered strong support for RFK Jr., who Trump has tapped to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
And after hours of sitting down with him, I was so impressed. He knows more about the science than most doctors. What he says, let me give you some examples about this red dye, blue dye, etc. I tweeted, that's been published for 12 years in very reputable journals that they're carcinogenic. Now think about this. We know for 12 years they're carcinogenic. The Europeans know they're carcinogenic. Guess what the Europeans do? They ban it.
The dyes and other additives in food and drinks are some of the items on RFK Jr.'s hit list, and you can bet that lobbyists will be coming at him, perhaps through senators during confirmation hearings, to keep him from getting this post. You can bet that the Make America Healthy Again movement will be opposed by some very powerful people and corporations. Here's more.
Why do we allow, when we know scientifically that there's carcinogens in the things we're giving to our children, and in the UK and Europe, they banned it, but we allow it? Why?
We all know the reason. It's all about the money. Dr. Soon-Shiong also talked about vaccines and offered his defense of RFK Jr.
There's no way he wants to ban the polio vaccine. He's talking about some of the old versions of it that happen to have mercury in it. We all know there's mercury that causes deficiencies. And if you can take the mercury out, which you know you can, and they've done. So again, people conflate this politically. So I'm here to say that not only I've sat down with him, heard him, completely understand the science that he's worried about.
Whether it's food additives, vaccines, or the endless variety of drugs being marketed to the public, RFK Jr. will be focused on America's health. And it's nice to see people such as Dr. Soon-Shiong seeing through the political attacks and focusing on the science. And next, here's some rapid-fire headlines from around the country. First, Amazon has announced that it is putting a stop to some of its DEI programs, and it's a move that's being echoed by numerous companies across the country. As reported by the Post-Millennial, an internal memo at the company sent to staffers by Candy Castleberry, the company's VP of Inclusive Experiences and Technology, said Amazon is, quote, winding down outdated programs and materials, end quote, as part of a wider effort to audit the various programs at Amazon, according to CNBC. It's funny that these programs were embraced by the left until the American people smacked them in the head. Next, Republican Representative Nancy Mace fired back at radical Democrat Jasmine Crockett after Crockett got personal during a House committee meeting. In response to Crockett's attack, Mace basically said, let's take it outside.
These campaign coffers really are struggling right now. So she gonna keep saying trans, trans, trans so that people will feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all to tell me whether or
Do
not
not call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out
I am a grown
which
woman.
of those
I'm 47 years
emails
old. I have broken
actually
more
have.
glass ceilings than you
Chairman,
ever
I
will.
am reclaiming my
Let's go.
time.
You will not do that. I
Order.
am not a child.
Chairman, I
am
am
not a
reclaiming
child.
my time.
If you want to take it outside,
Mr. Chairman, the committee is not
Okay.
in order.
Order.
Point of order. Point of order.
Order.
Wow, people actually voted for Crockett. And finally, LA Fire Department records reviewed by the Los Angeles Times showed that the department's top commanders decided not to assign for emergency deployment roughly 1,000 available firefighters and dozens of water-carrying engines in advance of the fire that destroyed much of the Pacific Palisades and continues to burn. LA Fire Chief Christian Crowley said, "The plan that they put together, I stand behind, because we have to manage everybody in the city," end quote. As reported by the Post-Millennial, her confidence in the department's actions were not shared by former fire chiefs who say that the engines should have been pre-deployed to the fire zones. Friends, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, today's show's one sheet is available to Patreon supporters using the link in the description. The one sheet gives you the links to all the videos and stories used on today's show, so you can dive even deeper into each issue. And with that, our next show will be Friday evening at the usual time. Until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button above. Once you do, tell your friends, share it, spread the word about the 13-minute news hour so we can keep growing. And for more great content, check out these videos right here, and I'll see you next time.